All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're diving into one of the most incredible stories from the ancient epic, the Mahabharata, but we're going to look at it through a whole new lens, modern engineering. We're going to pull apart an ancient myth and see if, just maybe, we can find the blueprint for a technology that feels like it was invented yesterday.
So, let me just start with a pretty wild question. We think of live streaming, real-time broadcasts, as something from our century. But what if I told you there's a story that describes, in stunning detail, a live, remote feed of an entire war, from thousands of years before the internet even existed? This is the story of Sanjaya's divine vision.
Okay, so let's set the scene. You've got the blind king Dhritarashtra, who's miles and miles away from the massive Kurukshetra battlefield. He is absolutely desperate for news. He needs to know what's happening in the war between his sons and his nephews. So, the great sage Vyasa comes to him with a solution, something called Divya Drishti, or divine vision, a power that would let the king see the entire battle for himself in real time. But here's the tragic twist. The king says no. He refuses the gift. He knows this vision would be completely unfiltered, raw, and he just can't bring himself to watch his own family members, his own kin, be slaughtered. It's a really powerful human moment, and it completely changes where the story goes.
So because the king turned it down, the gift was given instead to Sanjaya, his trusted charioteer and advisor. And in that moment, Sanjaya becomes essentially the world's very first war correspondent. His job? To sit there in the palace and see, hear, and narrate the entire 18-day war play by play to his blind king.
And this is where we put on our engineering hats. For centuries, everyone has looked at this story as, a miracle, a piece of magic. But what happens if we read the description not as a myth, but as if it were a technical spec sheet? All of a sudden, it starts to sound a whole lot less like magic and a lot more like a blueprint for a high-bandwidth remote perception system.
This is where the analogy gets really compelling. I mean, just look at how neatly these mythological powers map onto modern tech concepts. Sanjay could see the manifest and concealed, everything seen and unseen. Well, that sounds an awful lot like a multimodal sensor suite. He could hear every single conversation. That's just real-time audio telemetry. And he could even know the thoughts and intentions of the warriors, which is a perfect description of AI-driven behavior prediction. The parallels are uncanny.
So what in the world is a multimodal sensor suite? It sounds really complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just a system that uses different kinds of sensors to build a complete picture. Think about a self-driving car. It has normal cameras for what we see, infrared for night vision, and LiDAR to build a 3D map of everything around it. The ancient text even says Sanjaya could see just as clearly at night as in the day, which sounds exactly like he had access to that kind of layered data.
So if we look at this whole thing as a system, it breaks down into 3 stages we're super familiar with today. First, you've got data acquisition. His vision is just gathering everything, visuals, audio, even intent data. Second, data transmission. A seamless, low-latency feed is beaming all this information from the battlefield right to him. And third, data processing. Sanjaya himself is acting like a central AI, taking this insane flood of raw data and translating it into a story that a human, the king, can actually understand.
Now, this is all a pretty cool analogy, right? But the most stunning piece of evidence, the detail that feels almost eerily technical, it's not about how the vision worked for those 18 days. It's about the precise, sudden way that it stopped.
For 18 straight days, this connection is flawless. Sanjay is reporting everything. Huge army movements, one-on-one duels, the deaths of these legendary heroes. But on the very last day of the war, at the exact moment the main leader of one side, Duryodhana, is killed, something very specific happens.
The ancient text is explicit here. It says the moment Duryodhana dies, Sanjaya's vision is gone. It doesn't fade out, it's not a power he slowly loses, it is an instant cutoff. It's like the glowing data stream reflecting in his eyes just blinks out into nothing. Now, that doesn't really behave like a mystical or a biological power, does it? That behaves exactly like a piece of technology. It's like a programmed network connection that had one simple termination command. When the primary target, Duryodhana, is neutralized, the mission is over. End the feed. It's basically a server disconnect.
This whole thing just leads to a fascinating question. If the Mahabharata is describing a system with a sensor suite, real-time data streaming, and a programmed kill switch, have we actually built this thing today?
And the answer is Yeah, absolutely we have. Today, a military commander sitting in a control room somewhere is the modern King Dhritarashtra. They can watch a crystal-clear, real-time video feed from a drone flying on the other side of the planet, getting a perfect picture of a battlefield they aren't even on.
And just look at the capabilities of these systems. High-resolution cameras? Check. Thermal imaging to see day or night? Check. The ability to intercept communications? Check. Even AI that analyzes behavior to predict what someone might do next? Check. It is the exact same feature list that we used to describe Sanjaya's divine vision a few minutes ago.
It's pretty incredible, right? It seems that what was described 3,000 years ago, what was interpreted as a miracle from the gods, has now, in our time, become a tangible, engineered reality. The core concept never changed. We just finally built the hardware to make it happen. Which leaves us with one last, big question to chew on. Was the story of Sanjaya a literal description of a lost, ancient technology that was just centuries ahead of its time, or was it an incredibly sharp metaphor? An idea so powerful that it perfectly predicted a technology that humanity would, thousands of years later, finally invent for itself. That is something to think about.